There is a fault line off the coast of the Pacific Northwest that almost no one who lives above it thinks about. It is quiet. It has been quiet for over 300 years. That silence is not safety. It is a countdown. 9 million people live within reach of it. Seattle, Portland, Vancouver, countless towns strung along a coastline of astonishing beauty. Most of them have no idea that the ground they build on is a loaded spring, wound tighter every year they don't feel it move. The fault is called the Cascadia Subduction Zone. It runs for 600 miles offshore, from Northern California to British Columbia, hidden under cold, gray ocean. And it is capable of the largest earthquake this continent can produce. Here is how it works and why the quiet is the problem. Two of the Earth's plates meet here. One is sliding beneath the other a few centimeters a year, but they are stuck, locked by friction. And while they are locked, the pressure does not disappear. It builds. Picture bending a stick slowly with both hands. For a long time, nothing happens. It bends further. Then, in an instant, it explodes apart. Cascadia is the stick, and it has been bending since the year 1700. We know that date with eerie precision. On the night of January 26, 1700, the fault let go. There were no written records in the Pacific Northwest then, but the tsunami it threw across the ocean was recorded on the coast of Japan. An orphan tsunami, they called it, a great wave that arrived with no earthquake felt before it, because the quake had happened 5,000 miles away. From those records, scientists found the exact night Cascadia last broke, and the land itself remembers. Along the coast stand ghost forests, groves of dead cedar trees, killed when the ground dropped in seconds during that quake and let the sea rush in. Their bare trunks still stand today, 3 centuries later, a silent monument to what this fault does when it wakes. The average time between these great ruptures is roughly 300 to 500 years. It has now been over 300. Not overdue in a way that means tomorrow, but squarely inside the window, and moving deeper into it every year. The odds of a major quake in the next 50 years are about 1 in 3. A coin weighted toward catastrophe, tossed over a region that built as if the fault were not there at all. So let us walk through the day it finally lets go. Not to frighten for its own sake, but because this is a real place, real people, and a real event that will happen. The only unknown is when. Everything that follows is built on the science of what a full rupture does. It begins far offshore, deep beneath the seabed, with no warning anyone will feel in time. The locked fault, after 3 centuries of bending, tears. And once it starts, it unzips along its entire length, 600 miles of rock breaking in a matter of minutes. The first thing the cities feel is not the violent shaking. It is a strange, deep rolling, the arrival of the slower seismic waves. For a few seconds, people pause. They look up. Some understand instantly what it means. Most do not, and those seconds are the last ordinary moment they will have. Then the real shaking arrives. And unlike the sharp jolt of a smaller quake, this does not stop. A great subduction earthquake does not last seconds. It lasts minutes. 3, 4, 5 minutes of violent, sustained motion, long enough to feel like the world itself has come loose. That duration is the hidden monster. Buildings that could survive a short, sharp shock are shaken far past their limits by minutes of relentless motion. Structures do not just crack, they exhaust. Concrete grinds itself apart. The longer it goes on, the more comes down. And the instinct the whole time is that it must end soon. It does not. In the sheer length of it, people understand this is not an earthquake they have known before. This is the one. In the older parts of the cities, the most vulnerable buildings begin to fail. Unreinforced brick. Concrete built before anyone knew this fault existed. Overpasses designed for a gentler world. And beneath it all, the ground betrays. On loose or filled soil, the violent shaking turns solid earth to liquefaction. The ground behaves like quicksand. Buildings sink and tilt. The very land stops being something you can trust. Then, at last, the shaking stops. And in the ringing silence that follows the dust, the alarms, the disbelief, The survivors near the coast have one thought if they have been taught to have it. The earthquake was only the first act. The ocean is coming, because the same rupture that shook the land also shoved the seafloor upward violently, displacing an unimaginable volume of water. That water is now a tsunami, racing toward shore. And for the coastal towns, it will arrive not in hours, but in as little as 15 to 20 minutes. That is the cruelty of Cascadia. There is no time for warnings to travel, no time for officials to coordinate. On the coast, the earthquake itself is the warning, the only one anyone will get. Feel the long shaking, and you have minutes to reach high ground on your own feet. That is the entire plan. The wave that comes is not the curling surfer's wave of imagination. It is a fast, dark wall of water and debris, tens of feet high, that does not break and retreat but keeps coming, surging inland, carrying cars and buildings and everything it takes with it. For the low-lying coastal communities, the ones built at sea level on beautiful bays, this is the moment of greatest loss. Many of these towns simply cannot get their people to high ground in 15 minutes. The geography that made them lovely is the geography that traps them. The tsunami does not stop at the beach. It pushes up rivers and into bays, reshaping the coastline in minutes. And then, its energy spent, it drags back out to sea, taking with it much of what it lifted. The coast, in places, is left scoured to bare ground. Now widen the view inland to the great cities that survived the shaking but were changed by it. Seattle and Portland are not on the coast. They escape the tsunami, but they do not escape the earthquake and what it does to the systems that keep a modern city alive. The lifelines fail together, not one at a time but all at once in the same few minutes. Water mains laid across the same liquefying ground shatter. Gas lines rupture and fires begin with no water pressure to fight them. The power grid, wrenched apart, goes dark across the region, and the roads, the arteries of any rescue, are broken in 1,000 places. Bridges down, overpasses collapsed, highways split by liquefaction. The very routes that emergency crews would use to reach the injured are the first things the earthquake destroys. This is the part planners fear most, and it has a grim nickname. The region west of the mountains could become, in effect, an island cut off by broken roads, downed bridges, and a shattered coast, reachable with aid measured not in hours but in days and weeks. The fuel, the supplies, the hospitals are all part of the same fragile web, and all of it is interrupted in the same instant. Day one, and the scale reveals itself. Casualty estimates for a full rupture run into the many thousands dead, tens of thousands injured, and as many as 1 million people displaced. Not in a distant war, in 3 of the most prosperous cities on the continent, on an ordinary day that turned. Day 3. The immediate danger of the wave has passed, but the harder ordeal begins. Hundreds of thousands without water, without power, without heat, in a region where the weather does not forgive. The aid that would normally flood in cannot get through the broken roads fast enough. Week 1. This is where the true character of the disaster shows. It is not the 4 minutes of shaking. It is the months that follow. Rebuilding water systems, power, roads, and bridges across a vast region, all at once, is a task measured not in weeks but in years. And here is the quiet tragedy underneath all of it. Almost none of this is a surprise. Scientists have understood the Cascadia threat for decades. The maps exist. The models exist. The hazard zones are drawn. The one thing missing was the will to prepare for something that had not happened in living memory, because that is the deepest problem, deeper than any fault. We are built to fear what we have seen. A fault that last moved in 1700 is, to human instinct, not real. It has never happened to us, so some part of the mind insists it never will. The average person in those cities will go their whole life never feeling the fault move, and will call that proof it was never dangerous. That is exactly the trap. The silence is not the absence of the threat. The silence is the threat. Winding tighter, saving itself for one particular morning. And here is what makes the trap so bitter. Everything that makes Cascadia deadly is known, and much of it is fixable. Buildings can be reinforced. Warning systems can be built. Communities can be taught the one rule that saves lives. The disaster is not fixed in place. Only our attention to it is lacking. Somewhere off that coast, right now, in the cold dark under the seabed, two vast plates are pressed together, locked, straining, holding 300 years of stored force. They will not hold forever. And on the land above, 9 million people are going about an ordinary day, standing on a spring that is still being wound. The next worst case is already in motion. Be here when we walk through it.